They also spoke about Martin Luther King Jr., the significance of his holiday, the significance of this day. And earlier today, I got a call from former Congresswoman Corinne Brown, who was once our guest on this program. She talked about the program, shared with me some thoughts that she had, but I received two important notices since our last conversation. I want to share them with you today. And the second notice really comes from my special guest. This note came from Chief Garrett. Chief Garrett says, Congressman Jackson, as you well know, the U.S. President's power to pardon, often referred to as the pardon power, is rooted in the Constitution and carries profound implications on many levels. President Joe Biden's decision to support his son, Hunter Biden, through this power highlights its deeply personal and constitutional significance. From the nation's founding fathers, this power has been understood as a critical tool of mercy, described by the framers of the Constitution as guided by divine providence, what Alexander Hamilton and James Madison metaphorically referred to as the finger of God. This power is more than a political function. It represents a moral and redemptive force enshrined in the office of the presidency. Historically, presidents such as Abraham Lincoln wielded it liberally for the common good, while others, like Andrew Johnson, controversially extended it to former enemies of our republic, Confederate leadership, and even pardoned all of the slaveholders, shaping national trajectories. However, the essence of this power remains constant. It allows a single individual sitting in the presidency of the United States to grant new life, lifting burdens of guilt, shame, and regret from individuals and society. While President Biden had every right to extend this privilege to his son, the broader discussion must focus on applying this power universally. For that means to me that we must democratize the forgiveness power of the Constitution. Chief Garrett continues, millions of Americans, often forgotten and marginalized, endure lives marked by felonization, a form of societal exile that only the presidential clemency can remedy. This power, rooted in the faith of the founding fathers, is extended for all Americans, not just the elite or the well-connected. The pardon power is a profound mechanism to heal, to redeem, and restore. Its proper exercise requires courage, independence from political pressures, and a deep sense of moral obligation. It calls for presidents to rise above narrow interpretations of governance, embracing a vision aligned with the foundational principles of forgiveness and renewal. When wielded boldly and justly, this power has the potential to transform lives and reaffirm the nation's commitment to redemption and second chances for all of its citizens. I want to thank Chief Garrett for sending me that message today by way of messenger. I also want to make it clear that every show that Jesse Jackson is on is not going to be talking about the pardon power. Congresswoman Maxine Waters from Los Angeles and Reverend Jesse Jackson asked me in 2022 to apply for the pardon. I did not want to apply for it. Both of them shared with me that I could use this platform at this critical time to speak about men and women who've paid their debt to society, who deserve a second chance. They shared with me that if I did not raise my voice, no one would hear it, because we needed this platform to do so. I received a message today from Dr. Jones, Dr. Michael B. Jones. He said, Congressman, I want to give you an idea of the human and financial toll of medical providers being excluded from practice due to nonviolent federal and state felonies. Dr. Jones continues, there are presently 70,000 medical entities, doctors, nurses, clinics, dentists, pharmacists, etc., excluded from providing care due to restrictions related to their convictions. Each of these entities provide care. If they provide care for 2,000 people, a very conservative number, the community would have access to 140 million episodes of care. This equals roughly 1/3 of the US population. This alone would alleviate the known medical provider shortage. This would also mean an economic boost of $17 billion. This would also equal over $4 billion in taxes collected by the US Treasury. My special guest today is the author of this email to me, Dr. Michael B. Jones. Welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Dr. Jones, you've talked about the economic impact, but you've also talked about the providers, not due to malpractice, but due to paperwork, Medicare, Medicaid, taxes, that now excludes men and women like yourselves who are extremely qualified to provide medical care in our communities who can no longer practice medicine.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Jones, share with us in the 2 minutes that we have left, and we'll continue after the break, the beginning of your story.
Absolutely. So I do not consider myself special, sir. I am a man who grew up in a poor town with a working class family, 5 sisters and brothers, one sister who became a doctor before me. I patterned my life after her, but I also became a physician because at age 13, I suffered pneumonia. I would have died if it were not from Dr. Sims, who, as he told me when I awakened from my coma in the hospital, boy, I thought we had lost you. I had to save you with an experimental medicine. From that, I could only see that the greatest thing I could do was to pay that forward, to follow Dr. Sims's example and his struggles and his sacrifice, and to do the same for others. I was lucky enough to be born at a time when people were looking for smart, ambitious Black people to promote. So at every step of my journey, the federal government was behind me, providing me with scholarships, providing me with advanced education. And I was lucky enough to finally become one of only 500 Black cardiologists in the country. There are 30,000 cardiologists in the country, but I'm one of only 500 Black cardiologists. And there are only probably 1,000 Black cardiologists in the world. I was also given a significant drive. I believe in work. I believe in honor. I believe in loyalty. So I worked very, very hard, and that ended up with me being probably the busiest cardiologist in all of New Orleans in 2014. But being the busiest cardiologist in all of New Orleans meant that I popped up number 1 on the list of Medicare billing for all of New Orleans. And that therefore set forth my destruction. Because when you're at the front of the pack, they are going to come for you. It doesn't make a difference if you're doing good work, they're going to come for you. They came for me, they got me. I was convicted of healthcare fraud. I was convicted for sending 3 patients to home health that the government was able to convince at the time of my trial, be able to convince a jury that those 3 patients did not deserve home health care. That's despite the fact that I had 200 patients in home health care, despite the fact that I had 60 patients in the same home health care company that those 3 patients were in. That's despite the fact that I took care of 10,000 people that year. Yes.
When we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, Dr. Michael Jones will continue this conversation.
Traffic. We can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Febreze.
So my home is also my office. And before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up and spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze. La 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 la.
Want to play a game with me and Dad?
Mommy's not feeling good.
You need to vaporize that cold.
Vaporize?
Yeah, with Dayquil VapoCool. It's Dayquil plus a rush of Vicks vapors.
Whoa.
Come on, honey. Let's let mommy rest.
You guys are amazing. And so is Dayquil VapoCool.
Dayquil VapoCool, the vaporizing daytime coughing, aching, fever, power through your day medicine. And to vaporize sore throat pain, try Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
This is for all the folks who appreciate follow-through. Here's a quick recap of the KBLA Talk 1580 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. More than 6.4 million Southern Californians viewed our climate justice billboards and bus shelters. Another 1.5 million people listened to and or downloaded our weekly conversations with African American climate experts. Our KBLA Climate Justice web portal had 2.8 million unique visitors. Thousands more attended our 7 climate justice community events. More than 9.3 million riders saw our climate care messaging on metro buses and trains. And 39 million Americans accessed our C-SPAN Climate Justice Symposium. All told, our 2024 Climate Justice Campaign exceeded 471 million total impressions. KBLA Talk 1580 thanks all of our 2024 Climate Justice partners: LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, Sierra Club, California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, LA City Council member Curran D. Price Jr., the California Wellness Foundation, MWD, AQMD, and the Port of Los Angeles. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580. Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., and welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest is Dr. Michael Jones, who before we came to the break, he was explaining to us how he had 3 patients in home care and another 200 that he assigned to home care. But those 3 patients, the government determined were the basis of his case. The reason this is particularly important, before I turn it back to Dr. Jones, is this. There are many men and women who have provided home care, health care, and medical care to African American communities. Some of them have some of the most extensive training of any African Americans in the history of our community. They are medical doctors, professionals, and specialists. This is all they know. And when they catch a case, Medicare, Medicaid, or some processing paperwork, my producer shared with me during the break, who used to work at Morehouse School of Medicine, that some of them even kill themselves because without their medical license, they have nothing else to do. They've not prepared themselves for anything else. And so I now want to return to my guest, Dr. Jones, to complete his story about how he caught his case and why he believes he deserves, and I do too, a full, absolute, complete, and unconditional pardon, not just for himself, but for the thousands of healthcare workers who did not engage in any form of malpractice. They caught their case off of paperwork. Dr. Jones.
Thank you again, Mr. Jackson. So I am not attempting to relitigate my case. I was sentenced to 36 months in prison. I served out 16 months in prison. And although that is a relatively short time, it was by no means easy. I am presently due restitution, which I have been paying as I'm supposed to pay, but still about $250,000 worth of restitution. And although my life was completely turned upside down, my marriage ended because of this. My wife went to prison also, and my wife worked for the company that they said I was in cahoots with. And because I couldn't prove that I was not in cahoots with the company, in part because I couldn't come out strongly against the company that my wife was the CFO of, that my wife was the biller for. You understand? The government had me in a boxed in. If I was to come out strongly and tout my own innocence, I would have to show that that company did dirt. And to show that that company did dirt, I would have to throw my ex-wife under the bus. Now, I don't feel that she broke any laws either, but I do not understand why she didn't see the crimes that were being committed at that company. But I'm not the only person who was caught up in this. Two of my mentors went to prison along with me, and they committed no crimes either. These are men who you and I, if we got chance, well, I've had chance to sit with them, but these are men who, if you had chance to sit with, you would end up in absolute awe. These are men who got the NAACP Spirit Award. These are men who set the groundwork for hundreds, not a few, hundreds of people to become doctors and nurses. These are men who amaze you just at their strength of character. These men went to prison along with me. So I'm not looking at this as some way of writing my circumstance alone. I'm looking at those guys. I'm looking at the other 30 men and women that I know in New Orleans proper who have been besieged by this concept of conviction and labeling and making them into monsters for life so that they can't get a regular job anymore. I'm looking at these 70,000 medical entities that did not commit violent crimes, did not hurt anyone, but bill too much or were felt to bill too much. Because many of these cases, the people did not do crimes. It just looks to others like, oh, how could he make that much money? How could she have that many patients? So forth and so on. So my understanding is that we cannot right this ship in regards to the pain and suffering that me and these others have gone through. But what we can do is we can remove the stigma of permanent felonization, that we can say, you haven't committed another crime. Your crime was not violent in nature. You've done your best to repay your restitution and you've served your penalty. Let's restore you. Let's at least take you back to square one. Let's not continue to pack bags on your back and hold you down so that you can never return to an appropriate place.
I found your story so compelling that even though I wanted today to talk about the ceasefire, which I will do next week, I wanted to talk about Martin Luther King Jr., which I will do for the remaining of the week. But with 72 hours left in the administration of Joe Biden, the balance of tens of thousands of our healthcare professionals who owned their behavior, paid their debt to society, accepted full responsibility, owe the United States nothing else, still find themselves in a kind of purgatory, a kind of something that Dante himself, when he wrote his Inferno, couldn't even imagine, that the rest of your life, you're given 30 months, you did 16 months of time, you've been a felon longer than the judge ordered you to do time, and that felony conviction becomes who you are in nearly everything that you do. Share that with us, Dr. Jones.
Each day, I receive somewhere around 6 emails from companies that wish to hire someone like myself, triple board certified cardiologist, 25 years of experience, extensively trained in emergency medicine, extensively trained in intensive care medicine. They call me and they say, Dr. Jones, can we employ you? And I say, if you can employ me without me being cleared by the OIG, then yes, you can. If you can employ me without me being a provider legitimately stated through CMS and Medicaid, yes, you can. And they say, We can't. It's not my skill set that's a problem. Okay. It's not my personality, my behavior. No, it's because I have a scarlet letter on me, that I am a felon, that I cannot gain access to legitimate employment where the federal government has some hand in it. Understand that for doctors, there's literally only about let's change that. There's only about 1% of jobs out there for a physician where the federal government is not in some way a payer or a regulator. So that if the OIG says no to me, 99% of the jobs that I could get are straight off the table. Because
So you're saying, Dr. Jones, that the only way you can be restored in the federal system of payments and receipts is, one, you've owned your behavior for what you did do in this process, or what you at least were convicted of, guilt or innocence notwithstanding. But now that you have paid your debt to society, the federal government itself stands as a barrier to your re-engagement in the community in terms of your basic skill set, decades of knowledge and education to achieve what you've achieved in cardiology.
have passed every exam that I was ever presented with, have dedicated my life to helping individuals. I am the chairman of health for the NAACP of Louisiana. I volunteer with the Veterans Foundation and help veterans get their disability. I've given scholarships out to every kid who asked me for one when I was in practice. And at present, when individuals, entities want to hire me, if they take federal funds, they say we cannot do it. A pardon would, in essence, as you know the language to be, remove from me and the other 70,000 individuals that I've talked to, the other 70,000 medical entities, it will remove from us the financial obligation of restitution, etc., but would also essentially say to any employer, he has been forgiven. He is innocent in the eyes of our government. So let him or her go back to work. Our Veterans Administration right now, are you by chance a veteran, sir?
No, sir, I am not.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you know many. Right now, our Veterans Administration, if you were to call to try to get an appointment, it would take you 6 months to get in to see a cardiologist like me. Why? Because they don't have enough. So every Veterans Administration, every state you would go to will tell you they want me. But then they'll say they can't have me. Now, that's not just me. I told you again, I know physical therapists, I know nurses, I know pharmacists, I know dentists, all of whom are saying, Michael, I want to go to work, but they cannot, simply because of that one little not one little, that one huge scarlet letter.
When we come forward, we will be with Dr. Michael Jones, who's making a clear and compelling case that only the President of the United States has the power to restore his citizenship rights to provide care for the least of these. When we come forward, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
In traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Rudy Giuliani has settled a $150 million defamation case with 2 Black Georgia election workers. They agreed to let him keep his property in exchange for compensation and a promise not to defame them. Sean Diddy Combs is facing new allegations of raping a woman when she was 16. She claims he offered her a ride, gave her a drink that left her groggy, and took her to another location to assault her. Indiana Governor Mike Braun has ended DEI initiatives in state government. One of his 19 executive orders prohibits state resources from supporting DEI programs or training that endorse preferential treatment based on race, color, ethnicity, or national origin. And Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams has unveiled a $650 million Bridge to Home plan to assist homeless and mentally ill individuals in the city. Run by New York City Health and Hospitals, it offers treatment in a home-like setting before transitioning them to permanent housing. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
New year, fresh start. Why not with better water? LifeSource Water gives you clean, filtered water from every tap with no salt and no frequent maintenance. Call 800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com today. Warranty limitations apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers and Clippers won their home games last night. The Clippers beat Brooklyn by 59 points, the largest victory margin in franchise history. Brooklyn's 67 points is a season low for all NBA teams. Kawhi Leonard had 23 points. James Harden dropped 21 and had 11 assists. The Clippers are at Portland tonight. The Lakers snapped a 3-game losing streak with a 9-point win over Miami. Rui Hachimura led the Lakers with 23 points. LeBron and Anthony Davis had 22 each. The Lakers played Brooklyn Friday night at Crypto. Tiger Woods, who sponsors the Genesis Invitational Golf Tournament in Pacific Palisades, remain uncertain if the event will be played. The Genesis is scheduled for February 13th to the 16th at the Riviera Country Club. The course did not suffer any damage from the wildfires, although numerous homes nearby were destroyed. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you in tough times, connecting you with resources and what you need to know. Evacuation shelters are located in the Pasadena Civic Center, the Dream Center in LA, the Westwood Recreation Center, and many more. You can call 311 for details. Santa Anita Park in Arcadia is a pop-up mutual aid hub where you can pick up anything from clothing to food and hygiene supplies. If you're in Los Angeles County and in need of food, call Omni Ministries at 310-631-1557. Donations can be made to Zelle, Omni Ministries, Inc. at yahoo.com. Parking Lot I outside of Rose Bowl Stadium is a pop-up mutual aid hub where you can pick up everything from clothing to food to hygiene supplies for free. To volunteer or donate to help victims of the fire, contact the LA Emergency Network at enla.org. The Cochran Firm and Ivy McNeil, Wyatt Purcell and Diggs, Jasmine Canick, and others have launched a GoFundMe specifically targeting Altadena. Visit LA Fires, the impacted Black community urgently needs help on GoFundMe, and donate to help Black evacuees fighting for survival. Airbnb is offering free temporary housing to people displaced by the fires. Call 211 to sign up. The LA Chamber of Commerce is stepping up to help you sort out insurance claims and other paperwork. Reach them at 213-580-7500. South LA Cafe has free groceries, clothing, and water available at 1700 Browning Boulevard in LA. Track their giveaways or volunteer through their Instagram at South LA Cafe. U-Haul is donating short-term storage free of charge for 30 days to evacuees. Shelter for small or large animals can be accessed by calling 211. A Black-led coalition of community organizations is offering support and resources in the Altadena area at the Flint Ridge Center at 236 West Mountain Street in Pasadena. For comprehensive lists of resources for housing, food, shelter, and more, visit Mutual Aid LA Network on Instagram. Praying for LA and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the voice of reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., and welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My guest is Dr. William Jones. Dr. Jones reached out to me this morning by email after having heard our plea and plight and wanted to share with us the condition that confronts thousands, tens of thousands of medical professionals, but certainly disproportionately African American medical professionals who caught a case. I have a question for you, Dr. Jones, before you continue your story. Did you fill out a pardon application?
I did.
You completed a pardon application.
I did. I not only completed the pardon application, but I completed the pardon application for my ex-wife, and I also put in for commutation for both she and I.
Has the government contacted you since you've submitted your pardon application?
They responded saying they had received the pardon application, and that was it.
That's the last time I heard from the government as well. Paul Manafort did not fill out a pardon application. Roger Stone did not fill out a pardon application. Hunter Biden did not fill out a pardon application. Obviously, they heard from the government, and obviously they received full, unconditional, complete, and absolute pardons. I could put the three of them together, and they don't have your academic qualifications, nor have they helped Black people who have cardiac problems on the scale that you have helped them. Why and how did it make you feel when you heard they got pardoned and you hadn't?
So I'm a realist. I know that I am Black. I know that I am a Black man living in the deep South, Georgia and Louisiana, where I reside. And I also know that my country is a racist country. So I don't lament and worry and think too much about these things in that regard. It would be foolish, I believe, for me. It would be foolish for me to say, why am I not considered the same as a 80-year-old white man who has rubbed elbows with the rich and elite for the last 40, 50 years? I don't think that that's realistic. But what I do think should be realistic, if Joe Biden says, as he has said, that he believes in redemption, if he says, as he has said, that he is not racist, if he says that he believes that all Americans are equal, that he believes in the Constitution, that we are all endowed with the same rights, then he should say to himself, his administration should say, and that's the same of the Trump administration. They should say, well, Michael Jones didn't kill anyone. He didn't rape anyone. He didn't stick a gun to anyone's face and take their money. He was convicted of, let's make sure I change that word. He was convicted of a financial crime. We can alleviate his further suffering. He served, and understand, I was hit with my notice of investigation in 2014. I was convicted in 2017. I went to prison in 2020. It is currently 2024. That means that I have been under the specter of government surveillance and persecution for 10 years. Okay? Each year of that time, my financial prowess dwindled. Each year of that time, my social standing dwindled. Each year of that time, people removed me from their call list, their give that brother a call and just say hello list. They removed me from the hospital medical staffs. I have suffered greatly for the last 10 years. And is my suffering the only suffering? No. Again, there are 70,000 medical entities that I can show you. I have the paperwork to show this to you, that there are 70,000 medical entities, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, clinics, occupational therapists who've gone through this same thing. When is enough enough?
That's right.
I've already been bankrupted. Now I was resilient enough to regain my medical license, resume 2 practices. I actually have a free clinic at one of my offices. So I've been able to restore myself to some degree. I can take care of my children and myself. But when does it end? I was given a 3-year sentence, but it's not been a 3-year sentence. It's been a 10-year sentence that looks like it'll be a 30-year sentence.
That's exactly right. Felonization, I have tried to share with the listeners on this call. There is almost no one in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in Dallas, in New Orleans, in Washington, D.C., in New York City, who does not know someone who has paid their debt to society, and yet they have been a felon longer than what the jury and the judge said do. I did 30 months of federal time. I've been a felon for 10 years. I've been turned down teaching jobs. I have 17 years experience in Congress. I'm a graduate of North Carolina A&T State University, the finest undergraduate academic institution in the United States that's extremely difficult to get into. I graduated from Chicago Theological Seminary, University of Illinois College of Law, 13 honorary doctorates, and I can't get a job teaching. I can't get a job teaching government. So I empathize with exactly what you're saying. But more importantly, what I did, I just served people as their congressman. I own my behavior. I paid my responsibility. I paid my restitution. But, sir, you are a medical doctor. You save lives. That's something in a profound way that I don't even do and have never done. You look into the cavity of a person's chest, and the United States government can look at your extraordinary qualifications, recognize that you paid everything that you were supposed to do in terms of the society's demands, and still not forgive you so that you can re-engage the least of these in our system. Man, that hurts me. It made me change my entire agenda today and make you my special guest. Dr. Jones, what do we do next?
There are 3 avenues to this. The first avenue is the most expedient avenue is for either president's administration, either Biden or Trump, to simply do a reasonable evaluation of all 70,000 of these entities that we've talked about, medical entities, and say, yes, let's restore them. Okay. Now, you and I understand that the pardon power is awesome, but we also do have to be realistic that it becomes a personal issue for each president, correct?
Yes, it does.
And so, if that president doesn't believe in this concept of reestablishing individuals, I mean, it would be essentially like the emancipation of 16 million people if you were to do this correctly. It would be like emancipating. This president or the next president would be considered the greatest emancipator of people. Now, I may not know history correctly, but Lincoln did the emancipation for slaves. But at that time, if I'm correct, there were only about 4 million slaves. So this would double, triple that.
Well, the Emancipation Proclamation, I am a historian, impacts about 5 million slaves in the states that were in rebellion. But of course, it left slavery in place in the states where there was no rebellion.
Yes.
So the proclamation is directed to the southern states and to those states in rebellion. At some point in time, Lincoln understands that there's a unique relationship between the freedom of the slaves and saving the Union. And the Union then allows African Americans to join the United States colored troops, and they began to join the campaign that ultimately led to the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution. When we come forward, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Dr. William Jones will continue.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
If you have unfiled taxes or are in debt to the IRS, this is important news. Did you know the IRS has a program specifically designed to help people struggling with tax debt? Powerful tax assistance programs that can save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution firm, A-rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their award-winning team of tax attorneys and licensed professionals have resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. One call to Optima can start the process, helping to end your worries about wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other IRS actions. Make sure you're getting the best options to resolve your tax problems. Call the experts at Optima today for a free confidential consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. and welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is Dr. Michael Jones. Dr. Jones, you mind if I call you Michael?
I would love for you to call me Michael.
Would you please call me Jesse?
Absolutely.
I think we know each other well enough now. Dr. Jones, the number one cause of death in the African-American community I have read is cardiac arrest and stroke.
Yes, sir.
What you're telling our listeners is that our cardiologists and our medical doctors, our nurses, the very people that we need to provide care, the most qualified people in the history of our race, they finally got into school. They finally made it to medical school. They took advantage of affirmative action programs. They were sponsored by the government. They got scholarships. They were the most qualified students to get in the first place. They finally found y'all and got you through school, your own aptitude, your education, your specialties. And as soon as you got through the process, did pretty well, You caught a little case over a little paperwork here and there, did your time, and then the best educated African Americans that we have in the health professions are still on the sideline. I'm
Absolutely.
having a real problem with that today, Doc.
Well, you think you have a problem with that? Let me tell you something here. I know a lady, and she won't mind me mention her name. Her name is Dahlia Kirkpatrick. She is the only Black female pediatric oncologist I have ever known. Dahlia Kirkpatrick is about 70 years old. Right now, she's very sick. She's in a wheelchair, so forth and so on. And she was in a wheelchair 20 years ago when they put her in prison.
Wow.
Dahlia Kirkpatrick was put in prison for prescribing Ensure.
Ensure, that's the protein drink?
You heard me. She's an oncologist. So she has a lot of sick, weak patients who don't eat well and need nourishment. And she was prescribing Ensure. And somehow they figured out something with her Ensure prescriptions, along with her wheelchair prescriptions, was somehow bad. And she was put in prison for 18 months.
Oh, that's just unfathomable.
Now you say to me that I am a unicorn. There are 500 Black cardiologists. There are probably 10 Black female pediatric oncologists. And in the city of New Orleans, where Dahlia Kirkpatrick lives, not one Black child with cancer can get access to Dahlia Kirkpatrick because she has been given a scarlet letter and cannot work as a physician. You think that's interesting? Mr. Dr. Daly, Dr. Daly out of Texas. His wife is Dr. Natalie. Dr. Natalie was president of the NMA, the Black
National Medical Association. Mm-hmm.
Right. Dr. Daly had a very lucrative practice. However, he decided during the time of Desert Storm and some other stuff to go back into the military and serve. He was an adult man who went back and served 2 tours as what they call a flight doctor with the military. When he got out of the military, following those tours of duty, he went back and reestablished his medical practice, became very successful again, and he got put in jail for the issues of what his nurse practitioner did. It wasn't even what he did. It was what his nurse practitioner did. They put him in jail. So,
Wow.
So we could sit here and say good things about Michael Jones, but you have to understand, brother, they are taking our best and brightest in every city, in every state across the nation. I have guys that I can tell you about, spine surgeons. How many Black spine surgeons do you know? It's one thing to become a neurosurgeon or an orthopedic surgeon, but then you get an extra knock up where you're solely a spine surgeon. Well, I know spine surgeons out in Oklahoma who ran successful pain management clinics. They also had successful aesthetic clinics attached to their clinic. And then lo and behold, the government says, no, you committed crimes. Now, I want you to understand, too, how farcical all this is. You touched upon it. As a poor Black child in rural Georgia, I keep my nose clean. I come up during the time of the crack epidemic. I don't get involved in drugs. I don't sell drugs. I don't do drugs. I get great grades, get selected for scholarships to go to college. I then go to college, do really well in college, get scholarships to go to medical school. I then go to medical school. None of those steps would allow for a criminal-minded person to proceed. Okay. You have to have a squeaky clean record the whole time. And then I get licensed in 3 different states: Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. Each step of that way, they're checking your background, they're checking your nature, your behavior. You're even doing urine tests to make sure that you're not some form of drug addict. So, how in the world does it make sense that me or any of these other individuals that I described to you would wait until we're 45 or 50, making 6 figures at minimum a year, being celebrated in our community as intellectuals, community advocates, and now we decide we want to be criminals? How does this make sense?
It does. It just simply doesn't. It is the great travesty of the justice system. And I can give you scores and scores of cases of men that I met on this journey, and I could stay retired. I mean, I don't have to do this. I love doing this. I love our people. But when Maxine Waters and Reverend Jackson said, listen, you have a story to tell, and there is a huge community out here for 70 plus million, of which you're one of 70,000, a subset of people who paid their debt to society in full, but they still find themselves in some kind of purgatory. It is felonization. And I said, if it is my last dying breath, Dr. Jones, Michael, I'm going to take this thing on. And I'm hoping that you're going to join me in this
Yes.
struggle. Yes.
Yes.
We're going to do it for the next 72 hours to get President Biden's attention. Hopefully, he will see and understand that only he can raise this stigma off of all of us. But if he doesn't, we are going to President Trump. We are going to make the moral appeal to encourage him. It doesn't really matter who it is, Democrat or Republican. We need someone in the office to take the stigma off of our people and our community so that public servants like yourself can do what you were called to do, and that is to serve the least of these in our community with the best and brightest of your preparation and the best and brightest of our generation and what you have to offer. Dr. Jones, we only have about 2 minutes left in the program. I'd like to yield those 2 minutes to you for your final thoughts.
I am just so happy that you and I found one another. I have been aware of your story, obviously, as a member of the NAACP. I followed your father's career and his work, and I have followed your career and your work. And I want to tell you that for a person of your stature to see this so clearly, that's what we actually need. I am part of many organizations, and everyone is just shaking their heads and saying, how do we get people to understand? Okay, if we can just get them to understand the numbers, if you were to get this lifted off these 70,000 people, that's $15 billion that could be brought back into the economy. That's $4 billion that can be absorbed via taxes for our federal government. But more importantly, that's 140 million episodes of care to our community. Please, all of us need the help. Our world, our country needs the help. And I'm with you to the bitter end, brother. If you will allow me to but help you to do whatever you ask me to do, I'm willing to do it.
I want to make your story as big as I can possibly make it. I hope you will join us in this effort. Tavis Smiley, my boss, has insisted that we press forward on this case, use our platform to educate our people. We'll be in syndication on January 20th. We'll begin to add more stations and more markets to educate the American people to the dilemma confronting African Americans and the caste system that our nation that we love so much is placing us in. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. Until we come forward tomorrow, grateful to you, Dr. Michael Jones, for being my
Thank you
guest.
so much.
I'm Amber Payton.